Is this working? All right. Looks like it is. All right. We're hopping. Hold on. Actually, I'm going to go wash my hands because this is very sticky. Okay. We're back. So, what I'm going to do today is wait until people pop onto the stream, if it happens at all. I understand that it's Saturday and people probably aren't on. Let's actually take a look at my YouTube Studio app. We're at 1,044 subscribers now. That's freaking crazy. That's wild. Gained 77 subscribers in 28 days. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it should be about the time that my subscribers are actually on YouTube. But today we are just going to go over some stuff. Over a question that I get asked often is, how long does it take to heal from POTS syndrome? I see that we have likes, but I can't see if there's any viewers. So W in the chat, if you're here, let me know who it is, what's going on. But basically, I'm going to take care of some client work today because this week we are out of town. I'm going to be out of town starting Wednesday, so I'm not really going to be streaming much. I'm going to be streaming probably from the competition that we're going to. Not a lot about POTS syndrome, really, if at all. I might try to sneak away for a little bit and do live streams from my phone, maybe like on a walk or something or during a workout. But yeah, it's going to be kind of sparse. So anyway, I'm doing client work right now, so I don't really have to deal with it for the next week. Does that make sense? I'm going to update programs while on live with you guys. Now I see that we have some viewers. We're going to go half screen, half and half. This is why I need a second monitor. I got a cool iPad now that's coming in. Strictly for this stuff, strictly for POTS and client work. So I can have a second phone number and all that. Dang, a curve would be cool. A curve one. Yep, that would be dope. Another thing that I have to do today is go mow the lawn. And my girlfriend is trying to mow the lawn. She's like, I need steps. No. That is the man's job. That is what I shall do. You do not get to do it. So we're updating client programs while on live. But today I want to talk about how long does it take to heal from POTS syndrome, because I get that question so often that I think it's actually worth addressing. But I'm going to wait for some more people to get in here. I think that this is actually a very good topic to talk about. It's worthwhile because there's actually quite a bit of nuance to this. And I know some people are like gonna hate that. Like they're not gonna want to hear that. But it is what it is. There's a lot of nuance to it. I think soon. Well, I'll let Dr. Tyler Pansner take over what I was just about to say. I want to talk about supplements at some point. For those of you guys that don't know, on July 16th, I'm having Dr. Tyler Pansner as a guest on this channel. He is a genetics PhD. Like he's a genetic health optimization expert. He's a PhD trained in pharmacology, and he specializes in supplement pharmacology, basically. I don't know if that's like the right terms for it, but like he specializes in basically health, longevity based on your genetic makeup, and different gene mutations and stuff like that. He does a lot of health optimization through that. I have personally worked with him. I found some of his work useful for me, and so I thought it would be worth having him on here. He knows a lot about like methylation, things of that nature, the things that I really think are important to know about with POTS syndrome and to at least get baseline answers for, if anything. So yeah, I want him to come on and talk to y'all. But that is on July 16th, 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I kinked my neck again. That really sucks. TRX inverted row. We'll see if this client actually finishes their program this week. I'm making updates to 2 of their days. Lots of core work. All right, we got a couple people in here. Looks like so. We'll talk about how long does it take for somebody to heal from POTS syndrome. Okay, so I think that this conversation is a very it's kind of a touchy conversation. So I'm gonna take it from a couple different angles. Basically, the way that I'm gonna approach this conversation is number 1, habit formation. Number 2, where the person is currently in their recovery status, right? Where they're coming from. And let's just start with that. So I get this question often: how long does it take to heal from POTS syndrome? I get a lot of comments on it. I get a lot of DMs on it. And it's so variable. There's a lot of different nuances to it, but I have a general answer prepared. And so it's going to highly depend on what state you are starting from. So I have worked with people all the way from being bedbound. They can't get out of bed, all the way to, higher functioning. And they just want to make sure that they're like getting their fitness in check, and they want to kind of build some muscle. They want to build up their aerobic base because they still have some symptoms and they need to get them out of control, or under control rather. So I've worked with people from all over the spectrum. And what I will say is that in general, it takes about 3 to 4 months for people to go to remission. We'll say in quotes. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to make any really tough claims. But in general, for the people that I have worked with, as long as there's no other sort of comorbidities or like real issues happening, it generally takes between 3 and 4 months. Now, this is highly, highly dependent on how adherent to a program somebody is going to be. So a lot of people will claim that they're adherent, but then when you get on the conversation, when you have like the weekly checkup or whatever, when I have the weekly checkup, you'll hear, yeah, I was really adherent, and they'll like mark in the app that I have that I take my client, that I use, for my clients, they'll mark that they did the workouts or whatever, but then they decide to tell me other things that happened. So like, I did this too, and then I did this, and then I did this. So a lot of it comes down to how willing are you to make big adjustments in your lifestyle in order to find the results, because there's a few things that happens. And the first thing is you need to be real about what your lifestyle actually looks like. And for a lot of people with POTS, they're not super honest even with themselves about how their lifestyle really looks. So they'll be like, yeah, I eat healthy. Well, what does eating healthy mean? Well, I eat like, they'll be like, I eat bagged vegetables, and, I'll have fruit sometimes, and not too much meat, and blah, blah, blah. Like they have, you guys know what I'm talking about. People say that they eat healthy all the time, and then you're just kind of like, is that healthy? Or, what do you consider healthy? So yeah, people don't have a real good objective view as to what their lifestyle actually looks like. Do you exercise often? People say, yeah, I'm very active. And they're like, I go to the gym 3 times a week. Well, that's not what very active means, right? And so even people with POTS, they're like, I do like everything. I get I walk all the time. How many steps do you get? I don't know. Well, then how do you know that you walk all the time? Or how do you know that you're a higher active person? That's why I always take people through, track everything for me for 7 days. And then we'll recoup so that we can actually take a look at what the person's lifestyle looks like, and then make adjustments from there, right? So that's one thing. People just aren't very good. People aren't very good at like being objective with themselves about how their lifestyle actually is. Is it good? Is it not good? Not that lifestyle can be good or not good, rather, but it's like, do you have good habits? And they'll be like, yeah, I get good sleep. Okay, what does your sleep look like? Well, I go to bed at 11 or 11:30, sometimes midnight, and then I wake up at like 5 or 6. I feel fine. Okay, that's probably not good sleep practices, right? It's probably not good sleep. So that's one thing. And then getting that in check. Right? So like the main thing that I do with people for a lot of the times is lifestyle adjustment. And I have this talk with clients a lot where, they're like something like the excuse, I'll call it an excuse because it is. The excuse will come up of like, I just don't have time for this, or like, I don't know if I can manage to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I even approach it most times by saying like, this is the big brother in me talking to you now. So I hope you don't get offended by it. But if you are really looking to get better, if you really want to try to put these symptoms at bay, there are things that are going to be required of you. And you need to be able to postpone immediate pleasure in order to see long-term results and get long-term effects, right? So like, some people will be like, I can't stick to a diet, or I can't eat the same. I had this conversation recently, actually. Some people will be like, and not just with one person, this happens with multiple people. I can't eat the same foods every single day because it gets boring, and then I'll like waste the food or whatever. And to me personally, right? It's like, okay, you're passing out frequently. You're having presyncope. You're complaining all the time about your symptoms and stuff. So, but you have a problem with eating the same foods every single day. I don't understand how the trade-off, how you don't see the trade-off there. Like, Why wouldn't you just want to eat the same foods for like 3, 4, 5 weeks to get this under control? And then later on, you can get back to eating like whatever you want, or like reintroducing foods back in, so stuff like that. So it really, the question of how long does it take to heal from POTS syndrome really depends on how dedicated you are. And it's not just like my thing, right? Because most things work if you're consistent. How dedicated are you to making the transition in your lifestyle? How dedicated are you to making changes that are necessary that will help in order to create a better life, in order to get rid of symptoms? Like, everyone knows that exercise is important to healing from POTS. However, some people will be like, I'm too tired to exercise now. Well, exercise isn't just counted as doing barbell squats and deadlifts and bench press and stuff. It also counts to say that you exercise if you went for a walk, if you did multiple small walks in a day. That also counts as exercise. But some people will be like, I'm just too tired, or exhausted is the word, or fatigued is the word that you hear a lot in the POTS community. And it's just like, it's just not, it's not the right word, right? So how dedicated are you to actually doing the things that you need to do? So now, if you have a good program that's progressive in nature, that takes a lot of this progressive exercise, phys stuff into consideration and is tailored to you, I genuinely think that people should find good results and find at least a good amount of relief from symptoms in about 3 to 4 months. That's what I believe, because that's the majority of what happens with my practice. Hold on one second. Hello? What was it? Okay. All right. Well, I'm streaming right now. Okay. Love you. Bye. And so now, oftentimes, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Oftentimes, what I see when I talk, like even people who will like DM me on the internet, right? And they'll be like, I just don't know. Like, I tried sticking to this thing for a long time. I tried an exercise program and it's just not working for me. And I feel like I'm getting worse, or I'm whatever. Oftentimes when I talk to people that are trying to do stuff like the CHOPS protocol, or they're like trying to stick to whatever sort of exercise program or whatever by themselves, it's not that the program is bad in itself. It's that a lot of times people are adding more things to the plate, or they start feeling good, right? Even like this analogy came up today when I was talking about my elbow. I had pretty bad tennis elbow for a little bit. I started taking colostrum, which is like, dude, I'm telling you, colostrum I think is like the magic milk, the magic pill. But I'll talk about that in a different video once I'm like a week or two in. But the analogy came up that like, okay, my elbow finally had no pain, literally no pain. I've been dealing with this pain for weeks, and there's no pain for the past 2 days. So then yesterday I ended up having having some pain, some joint pain in my elbow again. Or no, today I ended up doing it. But it was because yesterday I felt so good that I did everything. I went and did like, my son and I do kickboxing together now. We do it every Friday at 10:30 a.m. We go to, we have a coach. He's an old UFC fighter. So now we do kickboxing. But because I felt good, I was throwing combos and I was throwing hard punches, right? And so today, because I decided to do that, plus my workout, my CrossFit workout, my strength training and stuff like that, after that, hours later, now my elbow hurts because I decided, I felt good, so I'm going to go for it. Well, that's not necessarily always what you want to be doing, right? When you're on the path to feeling better, especially with POTS syndrome. So like if you're somebody that starts feeling good with POTS, stick to the plan. Or like if you're starting to feel better and you're seeing progress, just stick to the plan, trust the process. Most times what happens whenever I talk to somebody that says I was doing really good and then I rebounded or something happened, most times what happens is the person's feeling good, so they start doing way too much. And way too much isn't just in exercise. They start going out way more. They start eating crappy foods because they're feeling good. They start taking on more stress, such as more hours at work, or they start doing more things with friends and all these different things that they weren't able to do before. Rightfully so, because you get excited and you want to be able to do things now that you feel good. I get it. However, the thing is that if you're just starting to feel good, like you're a few weeks in, you're just starting to feel good, you're just starting to see progress, everything else needs to be taken slow as well, because everything else compounds the stress on your central nervous system. So like the stimuli that you get from like being in groups of people, that needs to be slowly reintroduced too. The stimulation that you get from going to like restaurants or like big stores or whatever, that all needs to be reintroduced slowly as well. Like it's all these little things that normal people do who aren't chronically ill that don't bother them and didn't bother you before. You need to now look at things at these things as like also reintroduction to and taking it slow. But the problem is that a lot of people don't see those things as being like a stressor or something that they necessarily need to worry about. And I'm not saying that you need to worry about it. Some people don't have to worry about that. But it's my opinion that everything needs to be reintroduced slowly. It's not just the workout stuff. It's not just, it's everything. So like going to like family functions and going to parties and stuff like that, that needs to be reintroduced slowly too, I believe. It's all stimuli in your central nervous system. You need to give it a chance to catch up. But especially movement, right? Especially movement. Like you guys don't want to just like go balls deep into movement right away. Can you hear my dog snoring? How do you slowly introduce family functions? Yeah, that's a good question, because it's not like literally reintroducing family functions slowly. It's like slowly beginning to get into groups of people. So remembering that the stimuli of being at a family function can be a lot, right? There's a lot of people that I talk to with POTS that say that they go to a party or they go to a wedding or they go somewhere and it's like, oh, I feel crashed out for like the next couple of days. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of stimuli in your central nervous system. So things that I have had clients do, and I've used this example with so many clients, is like, hey, if you want to get back to going to, and this will also go to just being with people in general. If you want to get back to like eating in restaurants, what I recommend is like going first, ordering out, going for the ride to the restaurant, having your significant other, if you have one, go pick up the food. At least you went for the ride and I'll go back home. The next time, you go in with the significant other so you can help pick up the food. You go inside, you pick up the food, you get the stimuli of all the people talking, you see all the people, blah, 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 and then you bring it back to the car. And then the third time, what you do is maybe you arrive there a little bit earlier, so you have to wait a little bit longer and you get to see the stimuli a little bit more. then you take it back. Then maybe the third or fourth time, wherever we're at now, is like you go to a fast food restaurant so that you get your stuff really fast. You sit down, you eat it for a little bit, and then you leave. So you slowly work your way up to that. I like to think of everything in a progressive model because I think that it works the best, right? Like you wouldn't just you wouldn't just like go to a steakhouse, a 5-star dinner, and pay $200 for a dinner if you don't even make enough money to do that, right? Like you always like kind of are where you are. Like, so you spend money at restaurants that you like have the money for. And then gradually, as you get more money, you start spending more money on dinners or lunches or whatever, that type of thing. So slowly introducing yourself to groups of people again. What motivates you and or your clients to believe not crashing is worth missing an activity? What motivates you and your clients to believe not crashing is worth missing an activity? I think I understand what you're saying. So are you saying, why would you skip the function? Like, why is it like, what motivates you to believe that skipping the function is more worth it than like going and then crashing? My neck feels good. Good. Okay. Yeah. So I will, I'll touch on that in a very easy, simple way. You want to actually make progress and you want to be able to continuously go do things rather than be afraid to go do things, right? So you don't want to be afraid to do the things. You want to be able to do them more frequently, and you want to be able to do them without consequence. That's the motivating factor. So I'm not telling you by any means avoid your family or anything like that. If you think it's worth going through a crash, suffering, not being able to do things for a couple days, not being able to make money, provide for your household, if you think that it's worth not being able to do anything social or whatever, and it sets you back because like by default, if you have a crash because you went to a family function or a friend's function or whatever, you have a crash, that means you're likely going to miss workouts. You're likely going to miss nutrition. You're probably going to be laid up in bed. You're going to get a little bit deconditioned. So my thought, my motivation, my theory, what I help, my clients kind of get perspective on is, look, this thing that you're going to miss, there's going to be more of them. There always will be. And I understand the argument of like, you never know if somebody's going to die or you never know what brings tomorrow or whatever like that. But I'm not a doomsday type of thinker. I'm a person that's like, this little function that you're missing today, yeah, there's going to be hundreds of them for the next 10 years. So putting it aside right now so you can focus on you and you can focus on your health and making sure that you're able to attend all the family functions later is probably way more worth it. Right. And also one thing that I like to keep in mind is like, never stunt your progress and your development for the sake of appeasing other people. I think personally, a lot of times we say yes to going to certain things with family and all that because we don't want to let family down. And that happens a lot with people with POTS is like, they're just worried that they're letting people down. They're like, well, they don't understand what I'm going through. And like, I don't want to make them suffer because of this, but you're actually the one suffering. Why would you suffer on the account of other people that have no idea what you're going through, right? Like, make sure that you have you first because you're the only person that's going to have your back fully. Make sure that you've got yourself in check and then worry about appeasing other people if that's something that you ever want to worry about. If I know personally, like, and I don't know, maybe this is selfish, but if I personally know that going to a family function is going to set me back somehow, like I know that I have so many projects that I need to work on. I have certain videos that I need to edit, or I have podcasts that I need to edit. And if I know that it's going to be a burden on my progress in my life, I will just say no. And that's a learned skill for sure. But I've so many times, right? Like in growing up, like I have set myself back in my progress, in my work and all this stuff because I was just so worried about appeasing other people and making sure that, I was showing up because my family wanted me there and I wanted to be that guy. And now it's like, well, I want to be that guy for me. I want to show up for me. I'm not worried about anybody else because when I show up for me and I become the best version of myself, I'm also becoming the best version for other people. They just got to wait. In a crash, I now keep doing my workouts. I'm careful enough to not crash bad, and I don't progress my workout in that week if that I'm crashed. I also keep doing the steps, but no progressions either. What's your opinion on it? I think that's literally the perfect way to do it. Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to do it. If I know that somebody has a crash, I keep the volume exactly the same. I never progress them further. And there will be weeks sometimes where I don't progress somebody at all. 0%, because I'm just like, I don't want you to go through another crash. Let's let your body build up tolerance to this. Let's let your body accumulate the volume, accumulate the stress, and become accustomed to the stress. And once it does, then we'll make the adjustment. And sometimes people like get upset with me over that. That like I'm not making the program fun enough, or there's not enough variation or whatever. I'm like, dude, variation is the last thing that you need. What you need is just to just get it together. Like, you just need to get better. If an introduction of people, places got them in a flare, do you try again to scale down? No, because typically that kind of flare isn't the same. I would say in general, those types of flares don't end up being the same type of flare. Does that make sense? Interesting. It doesn't to me. Can you tell me more? Yeah, so in my experience, the flare, I guess we have to we would have to define what you define flare up as. But for me, typically, like, what I have noticed with people is that there are different types of fatigue or tired, right? And some of it is literally like, I can't get out of body fatigue, or I can't get out of bed type of fatigue. And then the other one is like, I am mentally and emotionally so exhausted that I don't feel like doing anything. And so physical fatigue is generally what I see when it comes to people having flare-ups from workouts or from doing too much activity. Mental emotional fatigue is the type of fatigue that I see from people when they like go to a function or they go somewhere for too long and just don't have energy, like mentally or emotionally, to deal with stuff. Those are the two different types of flares that I see. I don't like, no one person, and also, by the way, no one person really describes fatigue or flare-ups the same way. They all kind of have their own verbiage to go by. So what I like to do is I like to concentrate on what are the manifestations of the flare up. Like, is your body tired, or can you do things, or is it like you just don't have the mental bandwidth to like interact with people type of thing? That's what I really focus on. My flares are issues with keeping hydrated, getting dizzy, heart rate shoots up faster, and I get tired and very brain foggy fast from anything. Yeah, so you have like more physical manifestations of a flare up. So the question was, if an introduction, do you get that from like going out somewhere? Do you get that from like being with people? Oh, okay. You do not. It was pure interest. Yeah. So what I'm trying to describe is that a lot of times what I'll get, like, I don't have people that have like, when I try to reintroduce them to like stimuli outside of their house, like even like going to the park sometimes, like people talk about like being like going out for a walk is overstimulating, like just being outside is overstimulating. A lot of times what I have them do is I have them put on sunglasses and go for a walk. That seems to, for some reason, circumnavigate the entire issue, and they're able to like go out for a walk a lot longer. I have no idea why. It might just be all the information that's coming from like the light or whatever going into their head. I have no clue, but in my experience, that has helped tremendously with people. But when it comes to like going into public places and things of that nature, I've never had somebody like have a flare up where it's like they're having more symptoms, where it's like their heart rate is shooting up, they're getting dizzy fast. Actually, the dizzy thing, yes, but the heart rate shoots up faster, getting tired, and like brain fog does happen. So like a lot of times, if it's a flare up from like reintroduction to public places or to being in, larger groups of people, I don't scale back the workouts or anything like that, because it's not like the same type of fatigue, I guess. Like it's not the same manifestation. So like if they were like, my blood pressure is getting out of control, I'm pre-syncope, like my heart rate is like shooting up uncontrollably, all that stuff, like real physical manifestation of symptoms, then I would be like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll scale back a little bit. But so far, I haven't had that happen at all. And when people have flare-ups from like exercise and doing too much activity, that's different. Then yes, we scale back. I have a hydration protocol that I like people to do. I have some nutrition stuff. Sometimes I'll recommend supplements that might help. And then, yeah, we take it from there. Oh, poor boy. What? He's dreaming. Are there circumstances where you would scale back? Not if how do I say this? No. Not if it was like from too much stimuli from like being out somewhere. Because most times when that happens, if it happens, I normally don't have people go through flare-ups almost ever. I have a couple people, but they have other things going on. It's not just POTS. They might have other health concerns. Most times I do things so progressively that I do not have people in flare-ups ever. And if the flare-up does happen, if there is a flare-up, it's usually not from something that I have done. It's normal, or that I have programmed, or that I have suggested. It's usually because the person decided on their own to do things that I did not tell them to do. The only reason why I say it like that is not to sound holier than thou. It's because I am very careful with the way that I program. Not even just for POTS people, but for people who are general clients too, like athletic clients. I'm very, very careful with how I handle people. So, yeah. Do you get people who are still getting on meds, and how do you factor that in? Yeah, all the time. All the time. Most of my clients right now are on some form of medication. Yeah. There's not a lot of like considerations to take with POTS medications. The most, to be totally real, so like beta blockers and stuff, there's not really a lot of things that you have to worry about contraindication wise when it comes to exercise. If anything, exercise actually enhances the medication's effect for most things, even SSRIs, which a good amount of my clients are also on. So there's not really a lot of considerations to take with that. The one thing that I am careful with is prescribing heart rate specific work. I never do that in general, but not never. I do that sometimes. Like sometimes I've had clients in the past who were like on medication, but they would take it like bi-daily. So they would take it like one day, and then the next day they would be off of it, and then the day after that they would take it, or they would take like a full dose one day and half a dose the next, half a dose. So like sometimes what I would want is the information in order to be able to like see a grand scale of like what their heart rate does. Sometimes I request that information. So if that's the case, this is why I've largely stepped away from doing heart rate specific work, is because working with people on beta blockers and other types of medications, there can be so much more variances than there already is for people with POTS in their heart rate that I just don't even mess with it at all. I'm just kind of like, okay, we're just going to completely stay away from this because if I want you in zone 2, your heart rate's likely going to be lower than that anyway. If I want you to do a high intensity interval workout and you're on a beta blocker, your heart rate's going to be not even close to where I want it to be. So let's just do it effort based. Like this is the type of effort that I want you to put in. I've had a lot of clients that I've worked with wean off of medication while working with me. I've had a lot of clients do that. It's my experience that most people that have POTS don't actually want to be on pharmaceutical medication. They've been told by the doctor that they should take it or that it's a recommendation. The thing is that that type of stuff is not necessary. And more times than not, it has negative effects long-term than positive. I had a 17-year-old that was put on a beta blocker. The literature on beta blockers is extremely clear that they obviously do the job acutely. Obviously they do the job acutely, but it's very clear the negative effects long-term on beta blockers. Yes. My neck released somehow, guys. I shouldn't. I'm just not gonna even think about it or talk about it. Do people scale back on their salt intake because they get better and need less? How do you notice you need less? I don't have people ever scale back on sodium, because one thing that I believe personally, and this was actually a theory that I had on people. So I've got a couple theories, right? As I drink my salt water, I've got a couple theories. I have the psychological theory of POTS. I have the malnutrition theory of POTS. And I have the electrolyte theory. And I'm working on another one. The other one is the genetic component of POTS, histamine intolerance, stuff like that. One of the things that I have noticed is that in general, in the large population of humanity, I believe that people are salt deficient, or sodium deficient rather. I believe that's a real thing. I believe most people are deficient in sodium, and you can see that in a lot of ways. A lot of people have brain fog. I think that what gets twisted with people with POTS is that they think that they're the only people experiencing certain symptoms. No, and that's kind of where the psychological component comes in, is that a lot of people actually experience a lot of the same symptoms as people with POTS have. They just don't talk about it because they don't have this like health anxiety that people with POTS have. However, and when you look in the history of most people with POTS, is that they've had health anxiety for almost the entirety of their life, or they've had some sort of neuroticism or anxiety or whatever throughout the history of their life. Now, all that, albeit with all that, right, all that aside, there is one thing for certain. Most people, in my opinion, are deficient in sodium. And I could go over all the reasons why I think that, but I just like specifically, how do you say it? People aren't lacking salt, like table salt. They're lacking the actual nutrient of sodium. It's my opinion. When I have tons of athletes that I think that electrolytes for athletes is one of the how do you say it? One of the magic pills, basically, for supplements, or for athletes and supplements. I think it's one of the magic pills. I notice substantial differences in my athletes when they come to me, they're working out or whatever, and I take a look at their nutrition, and I'm like, hey, I want you to take 2,000 milligrams of sodium. I see substantial benefits every single time. And that leads me to believe most people are deficient in sodium. Most people sweat. Most people go to the gym. Most people do a lot of things throughout the day that actually require sodium action in their body. I bet a lot of you people watching don't actually know what the function of sodium is. And I'm not going to give like a biochem class on that, but just basically sodium is used for so many things. And you don't just deplete sodium from sweating. That's not the only way that you deplete sodium. And so it's my opinion that a lot of people that suffer with brain fog, and they suffer with like lack of performance or being tired, or they get headaches and migraines and all this stuff, if you just supplement a little bit of sodium here and there, you probably, have a substantial increase of like well-being. Obviously, there's the cases where it's not true. People who are obese probably should not supplement with sodium. People who have super high blood pressure probably should not supplement with sodium. There's the obvious caveats, so please just bear with me. What are the negative effects of beta blockers? If my clonidine stops overstimulating me at 3 pills, I could get off beta blockers since it takes over its function. So I'm not a doctor, so I don't really particularly want to get into specifics of effects of long-term use of beta blockers. I would just really encourage anybody watching to kind of do their own research on that, and not just research on like Reddit forums or anything like that. Dude, you can go look at peer-reviewed papers on it. It's pretty interesting. Like, they are very good acutely at doing their job for sure. Now, coming off of beta blockers, sometimes for some people is just a very terrible experience. And this isn't to scare anybody, but it can be a very terrible experience. And most people taking beta blockers with POTS don't need beta blockers. That's like the craziest thing about this whole thing, is that they don't need it. They just want it. And the reason why they take it is because it brings their symptomology down, right? Like their symptoms get like, they don't notice their symptoms, but that doesn't mean that the thing is not still happening to you. It's just less noticeable. That's what the funny thing is about people taking beta blockers with POTS. I don't know if you guys will find that funny, but to me, I find it funny because a doctor, I had that conversation with a doctor. I said, I don't want to be on beta blockers. I know that they have negative effects long-term, blah, 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 blah. And the dude was like, yeah, you're right. But this will just help you kind of not notice your symptoms. I'm like, well, I already know what the symptoms feel like. If I'm not dying, who cares? Dutch doctors don't like us potsies on salt. They want us to just use it as a crutch to get better and then go back to normal salt intake. What's your opinion? I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that, I guess. Whatever. Well, whatever. I guess I would want to know why. What I think salt, man. I really want to try to like not teach, I want to try not teach. This is something that I heard on the Joe Rogan podcast is like, try not to teach and just like give information, give people the gift of the information. Right. So the research on salt, or no, we have to separate the two terms, sodium and salt. They're two different things, right? Like your table salt, Morton's table salt is not the same as like sodium. So, although salt contains sodium, right? But what's the question again? As a crutch. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to touch that, to be honest. What I will say is that you can, there's a timeline in history where you can see that salt or sodium, gosh, I can't stop using the word salt. Sodium becomes demonized, right? It becomes demonized and sugar becomes glorified. So now if you guys want, you can take that bit of information and do a little bit more research on your own. What's the difference between teaching and giving info? Teaching is like me acting like, I guess, the end all be all when I'm not the expert in the field. I would say what I have is a lot of knowledge that has been useful that I have given to other people that have helped, right? And like, in a way, I am an expert, and that's the reason why people come to me. Like, I'm an expert in what I do. I'm an expert with the people that I work with or whatever. But also, I think it's super important. This is my main point with that, right? Is that my main concern with people, and I tell this even to my clients, is that like, I want there to be a point where you don't need me. And so my main thing is like, give you guys the information and then you go look into it for yourself for the main part, for the most part. Like, I'm happy and willing to give you guys total information that I have a bunch of recall on. But there's some things where like, I would just feel more comfortable being like, hey, here's the, like what I just did, the timeline, go look at the timeline. Sodium gets demonized. Salt in breakfast cereals and stuff ends up becoming glorified. So I'm giving you the timeline. Now you guys do the homework. Go check it out, My beta blocker also stops sinus tachycardia, so that's actually chill and also stops me from jumping at every sound. Yeah. So, but what I would say is like, I'm cool with that. Like, and I don't think like, I'm not the person to tell you whether you should or should not be on medications. The only thing that I say is if that trade-off is fine for you, where you figure out, the long-term effects of, beta blockers and stuff, if you're willing, if that trade-off is cool for you, then it's cool for you. It wasn't for me, different strokes for different folks. I just filmed an episode on salt, actually. Dope. Did you know different types of salt have different amounts of sodium? Negligible, but still fun to know. Yeah, for sure. Different types of salt have different nutrient profiles. That's why I'm trying to be very distinct in like sodium versus salt and saying sodium instead of salt. Yeah, that's cool. I wish your episodes were in English. I would like to revise a claim that I made, actually. Sitting here thinking, I think I'm not thinking of beta blockers, and I'm thinking about statins. I think I'm thinking about statins. I know, but there's already so much info in English and nothing in Dutch, so I want to help Dutchies who don't speak English, you know? Yeah, for sure. 100%. I think that's cool. Is it also your experience that people who lack potassium keep peeing no matter the salt or water intake? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. I think potassium is one of those things that, well, not think. Potassium is one of those electrolytes that is way under talked about in its utility for the body, for sure. 100%. I think, though, like the amount of water, that people with POTS need to drink, plus the electrolytes, you're kind of doomed to peeing a lot anyway. And people who drink at least a gallon of water a day, it doesn't matter if they have POTS or not, and if they're supplementing with electrolytes or not, they're gonna pee a lot anyway. It literally doesn't matter. You're going to have to pee. I wake up, and this is terrible. I wake up in the middle of the night all the time to go pee, like at least once a night. At least. Maximum probably twice, but at least once a night. I have been taking a new supplement that I want to talk about. I'm very excited about it because of the effects that I've had so far, and whether they be, I don't know, whether they be psychological or not, I think it's worth talking about. I have been taking colostrum. Okay. I think that colostrum, I've been really considering taking colostrum for a long time. And I never pulled the trigger on it. Right? Hold on one second. Let me answer this question. Would you say peeing at least every hour is normal? It's annoying when you want to drive more than an hour, and my doctor has not made up his mind if he thinks that's okay or not. I don't know. I don't even know what normal is. You know, I don't know what normal is for anyone, right? Like a diabetic peeing every hour, like, or even more frequently, that's super normal. Somebody who's healthy, I don't know. I don't think it's not normal. I don't think it's unhealthy. It's probably not unhealthy, if you're peeing a bunch. I don't know why that would be a problem. As long as you don't have diabetes, you don't have other comorbidities, it might be annoying, but you're drinking a lot of water. I don't think that that's not normal or if it's bad, Normal is 6 times a day. I didn't know that there was normal for peeing. I had no idea. I don't look into details about like that type of stuff. That type of stuff just doesn't concern me. And I'm not trying to say anything bad. But I think that this is what I mean with the hyperfixation for people with POTS, right? Is that like, is my amount of urinating normal? Like, is the amount that I'm peeing normal? It's like, who cares? I'm not trying to be mean, Jazan. I'm just like, who cares? Like, you're peeing. If you don't have diabetes or you don't have any sort of like, I don't know, bladder cancer or something, who cares? It's annoying for sure. It sucks, but I don't see anything wrong with it. I've had some things that have concerned me is I've had like clients who talk about like dysfunction, but like, or like, certain sensations that aren't super comfortable. That sometimes is concerning, but frequent peeing, I don't think that's that bad. I probably pee 10 times a day. I don't know, more than that. I pee a lot. All right. Your Facebook group said it was a lot, so they make me self-conscious about it. Who cares? Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, everybody's got weird things. Everybody's got different things. That's why I'm always so like, what does normal even mean? There's no such thing. Dude, there's just no such thing as normal. If your biomarkers check out, if your health checks out for the most part, so colostrum is a supplement that I've been taking, or that I have just recently started taking. This is my 3rd or 4th day on colostrum, and I've been taking 3,000 milligrams. So what is colostrum? I'm going to read from you guys on a website, and I'm going to tell you why I'm excited about it, and I'm going to tell you why I started taking it in the first place. Colostrum is a nutrient-dense fluid that is released from the breast of mammals after they give birth for the purpose of providing nourishment and certain nutrients to their young. All female mammals, including humans, produce colostrum in the days after giving birth. Wolford says colostrum provides newborns with nutrients that help strengthen their delicate immune system. These include protein, essential fatty acids, antioxidants, antibodies, immunoglobulins. Okay. Why am I why did I start taking this? So with Dr. Tyler Panzer, he's coming on July 16th. From my gene report, he said that I have an issue with like building collagen, basically with with collagen production. And he asked me, do you get injured frequently? I'm like, yeah. Funny thing about me is I'm always injured. Something is always wrong. I always have nagging pains, blah, blah, blah. So one of the things that he told me to do was to start taking glycine, because glycine is basically what collagen breaks down to, blah, 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 blah. Won't bore you guys. So I take glycine before bed, 3.5 grams. And glycine is a magic supplement for me too. I'll tell you that. For sleep, for calming my nervous system down before sleep, and for staying asleep, glycine, bar none, the best supplement that I take for sleep. The company that I'm associated with, Thirdsy, 10 grams of collagen in it. Collagen breaks down to glycine. 10 grams of collagen breaks down to about 3.5 grams of glycine. And you get all the other stuff in it. So it's really worth it. Like the stuff that you get in Thirdsy, super worth the money. But me personally, I like to take certain doses of the separate nutrients. So colostrum also helps with a whole host of stuff in terms of like, there's been a double-blind placebo study done, which is like the gold standard, right, for research, that showed significant improvements in recovery time and and athletic performance in athletes. So not just like your normal everyday person, but actual athletes. A double-blind, controlled, randomized trial, right? Which is the gold standard. So I got really excited about that. And so the other thing that I got really excited about is that colostrum is supposed to help with the repair of DNA and RNA. And so a couple things that like this made me think about right away, and it helps like colostrum is said to help support gut health, strengthen the immune system, aiding in muscle recovery, boosting health at a cellular level. That's what it's said to do. And so for me, my main concern is like, I want to make sure that I can stay pain-free. I want to make sure that I can heal up this neck and get back to doing things that I love. Like I want to do jujitsu. I want to start sparring in MMA and stuff again. I want to compete in CrossFit at a high level. So I'm doing everything possible to stay healthy. And so the thing that I'm like super excited about is that it repairs RNA and DNA. The reason why I'm so excited about that is because obviously that stuff is important for the production of collagen and repairing ligaments and tendons and things of that nature. And so let me just tell you guys a little bit of my experience from taking colostrum. And I know that some people are going to be like, that's psychosomatic. Like that's what's it called? Placebo. Well, I've injured myself so bad the last year twice now that I was almost completely out of training just in general. I like messed up my neck 2 different times, had a C6, C7 root nerve injury. So I'm letting you guys in on my life a little bit now. And that really crushed me. It crushed me. And because I was getting the competition that we're about to go to this week, I qualified for last year, and I qualified in a high division. And so this was like kind of going to be my push to be like, okay, should I actually chase the dream, right? So I end up getting injured like bad, where one day I'm like doing push-ups and I noticed that like my left arm like won't push. And so I'm like, what the hell? And I go to the PT and it wasn't that bad yet. So they're like, well, we don't really see much. They did some testing. They're like, it's checking out pretty okay. I'm like, okay, cool. But then I fly out to the competition and I do like part of a training session. I'm like, I'm still hurting kind of, but like maybe we can get through this competition. So I'm like doing a stimulative session. I'm supposed to do pull-ups and push press and stuff like that. And I noticed that my arm is weak, like cannot move it, barely can move it. I got to take my dog out to poop, I think, in a second, because he definitely just farted. Oh yeah, he did. Oh my gosh, that's gross. Anyway, I decided to test my arm. And so I pick up a 26-pound kettlebell. Keep in mind, guys, that I can, at this point, jerk 275 plus pounds over my head. I do reps with 70s, push jerks. I walk on my hands, do handstand push-ups, all this stuff, right? And so out of nowhere, I can't even barely do a couple reps with a 26-pound kettlebell. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? What is happening? And so then I try to do some pull-ups. And when I do pull-ups, I'm having dysfunction too, where I'm leaning over to the right on my pull-ups. Like I literally, this lat won't fire. It wouldn't fire. So I send the videos to my PT and he goes, yep, you're having some nerve stuff for sure. Some root nerve injury. You're losing function and strength. He's like, you can do the competition. You're not going to do well. You're not going to injure yourself anymore, but you're not going to do well. So I ended up waiting until day of competition, try to do handstand walking, because that was one of my first events was handstand walk. And I pulled out of competition that day. It was, I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I realized in the car from the gym that we were at 2 days before competition, when we had to drive another 2 hours, I cried for probably 30 minutes. And I don't cry. And I definitely don't cry in front of my girlfriend. And so I was just so let down. It was a terrible experience, because I had been training for this competition for 5 months, giving my all every single day, completely absorbing my life around this so that I could do well here, to see if I should make the push for this year to try and do the big stuff, right? That's what that competition meant to me. It meant a lot to me, right? It meant a lot. And so, yeah, we flew out there, and then my girlfriend, this all happened after we flew out there. My girlfriend ends up competing, blah, 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 blah. I finally rehab the injury after about 6 months. I'm starting to feel way better. The strength is coming back. And now I got to leave you guys to take my dog to go poop. Remind me where I was at when I come back in. Hey, let's go potty. Want to go potty? Let's go potty, Fletchers. Come on. Yeah, come on, dude. You farted and it's very stinky. It's very stinky. Come on. Ooh, let's go. Let Daddy grab his phone real quick. Whoop. Whoop-ah. Come on. Let's go, poopies. Come on. Lay down. Lay down. Hey, lay down. Lay down. Okay. Where were we? I rehabbed my injury. Takes about 6 months. Takes about 6 months for me to rehab this injury. I finally get my strength back. Everything's feeling good. Like right now, feel really good. Boom. This is a year ago next week that this happened. Okay. I rehab it. I'm feeling good. Then you would never guess I get injured again. And I get injured in the most stupid way possible. I get injured in the dumbest way possible. I'm doing strict barbell presses like this. Boom. And I didn't warm up. I come back down. I feel something happen in my upper back and neck. I'm like, oh, great. Good. This is happening again. Awesome. This time, though, I didn't get any weakness of the arm. Thankfully, it wasn't nerve pain. But I had excruciating neck and nerve pain. Well, not nerve pain. It's technically referral pain. Neck pain, same area, and then all the way through my arm for another about 4 weeks. Never take any pills, anything like that. You know, people say, take painkillers, take ibuprofen, take Tylenol. No. You know, I just never did it. So anyway, I get that. And I have all these other nagging injuries, right? And so I think, to be honest with you, and this I'll try to relay this back to POTS somehow, right? Like I'll try to bring it back. So last year was a testing year, man. Last year plus this year has been very testing. I had got both of my business partners. We fell out. I was the last person in my gym with the business partners. Out of all 3 business partners, I was the last person. First person was a good friend that ended up screwing me over pretty bad. I've kind of come to terms with that. And like, I'm trying, thinking about like reaching back out to him. And, it was 14, 15 years of friendship that just, got smushed, just got pushed away. And then the second, I don't even need to talk about the second partner, to be honest with you. It's kind of irrelevant with him. I had him leave. And then I had to take on the entire stress of the business. And then I closed out the business and I tried to do it in the best way possible for nobody to get screwed over, right? For nothing to happen to anybody. All the while with all this that had happened, I was dealing with that injury. The injury happened and amidst all this stuff. Rehab happened and amidst all this stuff. I have to close down the gym. And actually, it was the final day my injury to that area again happened in the final week of me having that gym. All the papers had gone through, all the papers were signed, and I had to move stuff that weekend. It was the last weekend that I was moving stuff. I re-injured myself that weekend. I didn't warm up. I was under a lot of stress. In this same year, my dog, who I just took out, got diagnosed with basically what is the dog version of ALS. And so he has no function in his hind 2 feet, his back 2 legs. And so anytime that he needs to go to the bathroom, I have to carry him. I have to take him outside. I have to physically carry him every single time. Blah, 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 blah. So many things happened this year that were... I look at all challenges and people say all the time, God gives his toughest fights to his toughest soldiers, right? I think that there's something to that. I genuinely do. Last year was a nightmare, and most of this year was a nightmare. However, put a smile on, kept working hard. I kept a somewhat positive attitude, tried to stay positive entirely, and blessings came out of it. The podcast, all the people that I have networked with and got to meet because of the podcast, new friends, this is flourishing, blossoming, all that stuff. And learning to set the ego aside has been probably the biggest blessing that I've received from everything that happened last year. And what I mean mostly by that is like my workouts and stuff. I try not to let my ego get ahead of me. I've learned to pull back in certain areas of my life in order to go forward in other areas of my life, which I've been a person that's been on constant 1,000 RPMs, need to get the work done in every single area. There's no excuses. There's no reasons to pull back ever. And so what I've learned, how I've translated that kind of into the whole POTS thing is I've been able to be a little bit more empathetic, but at the same time, I'm almost a little bit less empathetic. I'll explain to you how. because I can now see a lot of different perspectives, right? Like I see that a lot of people who have POTS, they go through a lot of something at some point, and that seems to be the trigger point for POTS. Some sort of traumatic event happens, and then that's where people end up like starting to get symptoms. And I think oftentimes people don't think about this because a lot of things that people go through, they don't look at as traumatic experiences or as a lot of stress. I'll give you the example of me with the gym and stuff or whatever. I'm just a hard worker. I love to work. And so like for me, I was like, I'm not under stress. Like this is normal shit, dude. This is normal. Although, and I'm going to be transparent with you guys. Again, there was times where I broke down during that time and asked God for help because I was like, I just don't know what to do. I need some answers. I need help here, God. Like stuff like that, because I was just like so overwhelmed. But I would still deny the fact that I was going through a stressful period, right? Even though I was like, God, please help me figure out how to make this flourish. Please help me figure out how to, to make sure that the bills continue to be paid because, whatever, because there's so much going on, right? And so like I would be constant, like not constantly. That only happened a couple times, to be honest. Nothing crazy, by the way, either. It's just like normal, like real life stress stuff where you're like, geez, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep the lights on today or this month or whatever. So yeah, I would, but how that translates to POTS is like, I think a lot of times we don't really understand that what we're going through is highly stressful. Sometimes people look at situations that happen in their life and they don't understand how much stress that actually put on them. So people are like, I don't know, stress isn't something that factors in with my POTS or whatever. It didn't do anything. It didn't trigger anything. It's like, ooh, are you sure? Are you sure? And so now I can see things from a lot of different perspectives from a lot of the experiences that I've gone through in life, right? And that's part of the reason why I'm bringing this up. But I'm going to get back to colostrum at some point with all this stuff, why I'm excited about colostrum. But I almost too now don't have that much empathy for people and situations because like I know that I'm not special. I understand that I'm not a special type of strong. And I just know that character is something that defines you and that can be built and trained, right? And so I believe that everyone can do that. And there's just some people that choose not to do it. And so like, I think that a lot of people, like I chose the stress of my life for the most part the past couple of years. Like I chose to train twice a day, 4 hours total. I chose to kick people out of my business. I chose to go into business with a business partner who is my best friend, who I should have known didn't have the nuts to do what it took to like create a successful business. I chose a lot of the things. So with POTS, I think that a lot of people don't want to take responsibility and they don't want to acknowledge things that they do or not acknowledge things that they do. You know what I mean? Like or acknowledge things that they don't do is what I mean, right? Like they just want to be completely victimized. And that's part of the reason why I get so upset by this stuff because I've been there and I've been the guy who's like actually gone through a bunch of stuff. Don't make excuses and just put your head down and do the work and then learn where to pull back so that you don't have this burnout or so that you don't have the flare-ups, we could even say, and being extremely disciplined. And I think that that's something that a lot of people with POTS really lack is just discipline. And discipline does not mean doing whatever it takes all the time. Discipline also means knowing when to pull back, but being honest about it. Not just being like, I'm going to pull back today because I'm fatigued, I'm tired, blah, blah. No, like, are you really that tired? That's part of discipline. Like, are you really too tired to do something? Are you really too tired to meal prep? Are you really too fatigued to handle what you need to handle? All these different things. So anyway, why I'm excited about colostrum. Because then I get a bunch of nagging pains too after that, right? Like I had tennis elbow real bad. Randomly, the day that I started taking it, went away. I don't know. I told you guys that, actually. So anyway, the colostrum, I almost feel like, I don't know. We'll see. So my body is just so inflamed, I feel like, because I have all these nagging injuries. my stomach, my bowels, stuff like that. Like there's so much. And I remember when I was doing like pretty much full carnivore, I was doing modified carnivore, which by the way, I was drinking raw milk, colostrum, raw milk. I was drinking raw milk. I'd have about 8 ounces a day. I'd just eat steak and then I eat fruit. That was it. And ground beef and butter. Everything was good. Everything felt good. Like my nagging injuries were basically non-existent. Didn't feel any inflammation. Bowel movements normal. Going to the bathroom normal. And now that I'm taking colostrum again, seems to be almost the same. It's crazy. Haters will say it's placebo. And I also might agree that it's placebo, but I don't care. I'll take the benefits, placebo or not. I've also been sick the past 2 years, and it could be due to stress. Way too many times. Like, way too many times. So we'll see how it feels taking colostrum. I've only got like one more client to update today before I have actual client calls tomorrow. Let's go to my calendar app. Access denied. What? All right, y'all. I think that that's going to be enough for today. I think what I'm going to do now is go mow the lawn because I am ahead of schedule on basically everything. So I'm going to go mow the lawn. Yeah, I'm going to go mow the lawn. I'm going to go do man stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching. This upcoming week is going to be really weird because I'm away at that competition. So I don't think, I mean, not I don't think, I know for certain I'm not going to be streaming super frequently this upcoming week. If anything, what I'll do is I'll live stream while I'm working out in between events at this competition. But for the most part, I'm going to be stuck at a booth. Not stuck. My podcast has a booth at this competition. We got it. We got it for free. They offered it to us to come and be the host podcast. So we are, we're going to be at, maybe I'll live stream there. I don't know. And just let you guys see like what a normal day looks like type thing. But, yeah, we're going to live stream somehow. Somehow I'm going to get it done. But it may be all over the place. So thanks, Jazan. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you guys in the next one Monday. Peace out. Goodbye.